My name is Joe Martin. I'm the Houston Business Journal's technology, finance, and legal reporter. And I've said tonight that I'm going to do my best Lester Holt impression and just ask a question and get out of the way. That said, I also promise you that there will not be as many fireworks between Jay and I tonight as there were during last night's presidential debate. So a man who needs no introduction if you've followed the Houston technology scene over the years, but for those who don't know what Blinds.com is, could you just give us a quick overview?
With Blind, yeah, sure. Thank you for inviting me. Appreciate it. Blinds.com is the #1 online retailer of blinds in the world. And it started off with no vision whatsoever. There was really just me and my wife who owned a store in West U called Laura's Draperies because my wife's name is Naomi. And so we had this, she had a store, I had gotten fired from my job, and that's actually kind of a funny story anyway, so you don't mind if I
dive in.
Go a little off track here. I'm a CPA, or was a CPA, but I haven't maintained my continuing education. I worked for KPMG Pete Warwick out of school, and that was when it was the big 8, not 4. So I'm with Meineke Discount Mufflers, which was based in Houston. I was the VP of Finance, and we were looking at maybe selling the company to a company in England, GKN, Gueskeen and Nettlefolds, and I'm doing the due diligence for the owners, and I'm looking at the org chart post-sale, and I'm not on it. So I knew there was a problem. And there was a problem. A few days later, I was terminated. So that gave me some reason to do something other than be a CPA. I looked at buying a transmission shop and placed an offer to do that, and thank God that didn't happen. And then I did some consulting, and that wasn't that fun for me. And we just decided, my wife decided to go into the blinds business and had a shop in West U. And because I'd just been fired, I needed something to do. So I said, why not? I'd like to own my own business. The transmission deal didn't work out, so I'll go into the blinds business too. So I opened up a store in Clear Lake. So I had one in Clear Lake on Bay Area Boulevard. My wife had one on Rice Boulevard in the Village. And that was 1987. So almost 30 years ago, I've been in the blinds business now. And in 1993, I'd heard about the information superhighway, and I wasn't sure what that was. And this is at the time, 1993 is the year before Amazon started. People didn't even know what email was to a large extent. Prodigy and CompuServe were pretty much the big things at the time. AOL had just started, maybe 500,000 subscribers. The big news I remember was that you got to, instead of having a 6 or 7 digit number as your name at CompuServe, you could actually put your name, J. And that was big news. That would have been a big story for you. So that's 1,500 baud modems, the screeching, you remember how that all worked. I couldn't get a bank to even take credit cards online because they weren't sure they would be valid transactions because the customer wasn't there and they weren't signing anything. So we were trying to find an attorney who would know something what to do, and they said, we have no idea. So all we did really was a little marketing experiment to see if we could sell blinds online because we wanted to seem cool. We just wanted to see, it was $1,500 to start a website. And there was really no e-commerce at the time. Laura's.com was what we launched in 1993. 3 years later, we said, yeah, I think you can sell things because there's this company, Amazon, that's selling books. So maybe you can sell blinds. And of course, everybody says that's a stupid idea. And a lot of people, when I tell them what I do, I never really know what to do. It's this constant problem when people ask me, so what do you do for a living? And if I say I sell blinds, they go, okay. And that's pretty much where it ends. And if I say I'm selling blinds online, they go, okay. And my interpretation is, well, you can't possibly be making money doing that, right? Because they'll go, you mean like those things on Windows? Yeah, those are the things we do. And then I started upping it and said, well, I'm an e-commerce person, and I've got an e-commerce company selling blinds. And seriously, that doesn't even do it either. So I don't really know what to do. I mean, I don't want to say, well, I'm the largest blind retailer in the world, because even that's probably like not much to most people. Well, now I can say I sold to Home Depot. When I start saying things like that, they gives me some credibility, but then it sounds like I'm kind of bragging. So basically, I don't know what to say. So I'm not sure. I've never known what to say, and if somebody's got an idea of how to describe what I do, I'd love to know what that is. So I anyway decided in 1996 to sell blinds online, and then 5 years later, in 2001, I was doing as much online with 2 people. I then hired 2 people as I was in my store. Over $1 million, close to $1.5 million in my store, where I was working 7 days a week, all day, Saturday, Sunday, doing all the paperwork, hardly seeing my kids, hardly seeing my wife. And yet I was doing this kind of fun thing in between jobs at Laura's Draperies, where I'd go to people's homes to sell blinds and help them figure out what is the best, most appropriate window covering, and would measure it, send it to my installer, we'd order it, and they'd install it. And that's basically how it started. People would call me, and I would answer the phone in my car in between appointments with an order pad on my desk, my calculator, because I could use 10 key by touch, which was cool. And I had this giant phone, the brick phone, which is what I had. And I would make sales from my car, from my van, with all the books in the back. And I remember the first time I was on the Southwest Freeway going southbound towards Victoria, but right in front of the Summit, which is now Lakewood Church. And somebody's calling. First, they call into the showroom, and they say, all of our customer service representatives are busy. Well, I'm the only customer service representative. So they call into the van, and they go, hey, there's somebody from Kansas that wants to talk to you. I said, oh, this is fantastic. Great, there's somebody who really is thinking about buying blinds for me? Yeah. So I called them up, pulled off to the side of the road. I'm still on 59, right in front of the Summit, and I placed an order for four blinds. And that was very cool. That was really good. And then eventually I hired those 2 people, and in 2001 decided, what am I doing working 7 days a week in a store when I've got the same revenue and I'm hardly doing any work? It's pretty fun. So that's how I got started, and I had no idea what this was going to eventually do. We're doing over 200 million now, and we've got 350 employees. And what's great is, you CFOs, we have no inventory and we have no receivables. So people pay us in advance, we order the blinds, they're all custom made, drop shipped right to the customer. And when I think about where we were then and where we are now, I just think, how the hell did this even happen? I don't know. I really did not have a vision as to what it could be. And when we hit 5 or 10 million, I thought, well, we've got it made. This is it. This is all we need to do. I've got it. It's in the bag now. And then thought, well, there's another company out there, maybe I want to buy them. And I did buy them, and then we went from 15 million to 33 million. Then we went to 45, 48, and we bought another company. And then just really organically built the company up with no outside capital. Went to the bank once on an acquisition and then paid it back in 11 months. Ultimately, though, about 4 years ago, we decided to take some capital, institutional capital, from Morgan Stanley. They put some money in. That was a great move. It was a minority raise. And we took a little money off the table. We used it for growth capital. We paid off our debt. And they positioned us very well to continue growing. We thought about maybe going public, but we thought that would be really stupid. But we were still building the business as if we might want to do that, and ran it hopefully as if we were a public company when we really weren't, because we wanted to have really good governance. We had a great board. Former CMO of Staples was on our board, and we had a couple of other really great business people. And then it just kept getting bigger, and Lowe's contacted us and started working on some deal, and then Home Depot contacted us. We weren't looking to sell. I mean, we were looking to sell, but we weren't actively pursuing it. Mm-hmm. And then they said, we want to buy you, and I said, good. that sounds fine.
Well, so
and we did that.
Let's walk through the deal a little bit. I mean, so how long did the process take? It was 2013 at this point when Lowe's came out and said we wanted to look at doing a deal, and then so just walk us through the timeline of how all that happened and what was going through your mind as somebody who a decade and a half earlier was operating a store in Westview and Clear Lake and taking phone calls from the parking lot of the Summit to potentially being acquired.
It's all been surreal, but it was, we just put our heads down and knew what we needed to do and never really thought about it. We just took one step at a time and said, okay, to get to the next step, next layer, we need to do this. And we did it. And then we said we need to hire the right CPA firm, and we needed to get the right bank, and we needed to get a line of credit, and we needed to get a good board, and just everything we needed to do. We just had by that time, we actually did plan, and we had good strategic vision, because then we wanted to become not just a blinds retailer, but really even 10 years ago, we wanted to make buying blinds and shades a no-brainer, which was the name of our first website, No Brainer Blinds. But more than that, we wanted to take hard-to-buy transactions and convert them, transform them into experiences that were surprisingly easy. What that means is we didn't want to just be a blinds retailer. We wanted to take our system, take our platform, and apply it to new product categories. And of course, with Home Depot, there's a lot of product categories, and now it's much easier to get that, and we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
So Lowe's talks to us. We're a couple of deal points away from doing a deal with them on a JV kind of deal. And then I get a phone call from one of the merchants in the blinds division, and he contacted me and said, would you mind if we came out and talked to you? And I said, sure, come on out. About 6 or 7 of them came out, and we had a really good discussion. He told me afterwards, when we left your building, we thought, Jay is never going to sell this business. He loves it too much. And I do love it. I've always loved it, and I still love it, even though I've sold it and I don't technically own it. But that was good that he thought that, but they overcame that fear.
As a piece of advice for some of the folks here in the room, I mean, you mentioned you started Blinds.com and Laura's Blinds without really a strategic vision in place. At what point did it click where you realized we need to start planning for the future and developing a vision for what we want this company to be?
Those are the kinds of questions which we'll try to answer, but I want to give you a big disclaimer. I realize that the brain plays tricks on you, and sometimes what you think is true in the past is not true. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to give you the best answer I can, knowing that it could be completely bullshit. So I think in 2005, when I made my first acquisition, I realized we needed critical mass, I needed C-level people, and I needed people lieutenants that I could really start entrusting the business to, because you know the saying, if you want to go fast, go by yourself. If you want to go far, you go together. And I needed together. I needed a team that I could go much further than I could on my own. When I first started the business, I was thinking, well, there's no way I'm going to be able to do this. Who is going to take phone calls other than I? I know how to sell blinds, and I know how to sell them over the phone and in the home. So this company is doomed because I'll never be able to teach anyone else how to do it. And obviously that's a problem with a lot of entrepreneurs, where they are a domain expert, a subject matter expert in something. They're really passionate about the business. They know the business. They can sell it. They can do everything, but they just stop right there. And they get to the level where they don't entrust the business to other people. They don't delegate to other people. They don't figure out ways how to lead people and to become actually a leader as opposed to a manager or just a doer. So I think it was probably 2005 when I started making that determination. And I also at that time realized that I would get the critical mass where I could afford to hire people who were really quality. And that's when I hired my first chief marketing officer, Daniel Kotler. Some of you may know Daniel Kotler. He's awesome, and I owe a lot of my success to Daniel, because there's no way I could have ever gotten to where I am, because I was the more vision. You know how a lot of times with businesses, you've got the visionary and you've got the operator. He's the analytical person versus the sales guy. I was the sales guy, visionary. He was the operator, analyst. And together, we were a great team. We wouldn't step over each other's lines. He knew what I was thinking. I knew what he was thinking. And to this day, we implicitly trust each other, which is really an important ingredient for our success. And I will say that that trust extends to my entire senior leadership team. We can talk about that later.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think it was 2005.
And so we get to 2013, early 2014, Home Depot has placed an offer sheet. As a founder, what was going through your head about potentially selling something that you've cultivated to grow to hundreds of employees, to have a brand name that stretches all the way to Kansas and beyond? How did you to deal with the fact that you were going to be selling that?
Once you take investors in, you've already made that decision. And I did take some investors in back in 2001. Mm-hmm. It's kind of friends and family. And while they weren't interested in growing the business, they were interested in taking cash out of the business. And that was a dispute. They had short-term needs. I was thinking long-term. And then when we took Morgan Stanley's money in, that was that meant we're definitely selling at some point, probably within 5 years, and it happened to be just 2 years later where we sold. Mm-hmm. So I've already had in my mindset the idea that the company would ultimately be sold. So it wasn't a big stretch when the offer came. I was in Austin at Bastrop. What is the name of that place in Bastrop? It's a Hilton or something. The Hyatt, yeah. Yeah, so I was there for a conscious capitalism conference, and the CEO of Home Depot happened to be talking. I didn't even know that. So he was there talking to Frank Blake, and I'm in the audience. There's maybe 75 CEOs there, and I thought, this guy's awesome, and I wonder if he even knows that we're talking about maybe being acquired. But I mentioned to somebody at Home Depot that I just saw Frank Blake was there, and then they were really scrambling, like, oh God, we got to tell Frank, don't talk to Jay. Do not see him, pretend like he's not even there, because he'll probably come up to you. Because what I didn't know is about 15 minutes later, they were actually making me the offer. So as soon as, this is total happenstance, I'm in Austin, I'm watching the CEO of Home Depot, really impressed with him. And then the session's over, he darts out, and I'm outside and I get the call. And even though I'm ready, they say how much the money is, and I'm shaking. I'm literally shaking, thinking this can't be. Mm-hmm. So, of course, the board says, well, you got to ask for more. I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me.